This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Sefer Daniel, Perek Zayin, Pasuk Vav. So we learned about the vision of Daniel. We've in the past we've learned about the different dreams of Nebuchadnezzar, and now this is the first time that Daniel himself is having a dream. And in his dream, so far, he saw two animals. The first animal was the lion. He saw a lion with the wings of eagles. That was in Pasuk Dalet.
Can you repeat it again?
We're in Perek Zayin, Pasuk Vav. So Daniel saw the lion with the wings of the eagles, and we learned that the lion represents Nebuchadnezzar and Babel. That was the chief. That was the first of all the Malchios. That was the first of all the Malchios. And it was the most powerful. It expanded over the entire world. And Daniel saw in this vision that after the lion with the wings of the eagles took to the earth, but then eventually it stood up like a man, and it was given the heart of a man, which represents its weakness. In other words, that a lion compared to a man is much mightier, much more powerful. And then Nebuchadnezzar saw a second animal, which was similar to a bear. There's another way to read it, Lidav, without a vav, which refers to a wolf, but simply put, it refers to a bear, and it represents the Persian Empire. And this bear stood on one side of the lion, and in the mouth of the bear were 3 ribs, and this bear, so to speak, was convinced to eat a lot of flesh. Okay. What does that mean? What that means is that naturally a bear doesn't eat meat. This bear, the Persian Empire, even though in most situations they were peaceful, nevertheless there were times where they went and conquered. Okay, so we're up to Pasuk Vav. Basar Dina. After this, Chazei Haves, I saw, Va'aru, and behold, Achari Kinamar. There was another animal like a leopard. Vela Gapin Arba. It had 4 wings. Dioif
Al
Gabe. 4 wings of a bird on top of it. The Arba oration, and there were 4 heads. L'chevasa, to this beast. The Shaltin Yehivla, and it was given dominion. Now, what does this mean?
What does he mean by it was given dominion?
He saw a leopard, and the leopard had 4 wings. What does this refer to? So Rashi says this refers to the 4 Moshlem that Alexander divided his empire to in his death, like it says in Yosef ben Gurion, that this third animal, this leopard, is the Malchus Antiochus. The leopard is, why is it called a leopard? So Rashi says, V'nikra Namer, it's called a leopard, Al Shem Shahoisa Goizeres Gezeros Al Yisrael. It decreed various decrees on Klal Yisrael, Menumaros Umeshunos Zumizu, that were spotted and different one from another. They were constantly coming on with different Gezeros, and it was given dominion, it was given power. Now it's interesting, what were the 4 empires that Greece was divided into? We know that after Alexander's untimely death, how long was Alexander? How old was Alexander when he died? 32. He's only 32 years old. So his kingdom was split up among 4 generals. Ptolemy took Egypt, right? Ptolemy took Egypt. Seleucus took Assyria and Babylon. Antigonus took Persia and Asia Minor. And Philip, who was Alexander's brother, he took Macedonia. Okay, so this is alluded to in the fact that the leopard had 4 heads. 4 heads. Where is it? It's
still in existence?
Not that I know of. And now it's interesting, we know that of all the Malchios, the only Malchus that really challenged the Torah were the Greeks. The Greeks were the ones who made a decree that they forbid Limud HaTorah. Why, of all the empires, were they the ones who were against Limud HaTorah? Which animal are they depicted as? They're depicted as the leopard. What is the distinguishing feature of the leopard? Distinguishing feature of the leopard is its leopard is brazen, right? Have az kanomer, be bold like a leopard. Now, in order to achieve chachma, in order to attain wisdom, if you're too shy, if you're too timid, you're never going to understand learning, because you'll always be too embarrassed to clarify what's being learned. Like Chazal say, Loi habaishan lamed. Someone who's shameful won't be successful in learning. You need to have a certain degree of azos, like a nomer. So that is why, of all the empires, the one empire that achieved greatness in chachma was Greece. Right? We know that all the scholars, the philosophers came from Greece. Why? Because they had the quality necessary. They had the quality necessary to be successful in wisdom, and that is azos. And therefore, they were the only ummah that was jealous of the Torah, because all the other ummahs had no connection, no shaykhus to chachma. If you don't have shaykhus to chachma, a person is only jealous of something that they're in the same ballpark of. If they have no connection, they have no shaykhus to it, they would never be jealous of it. So it's only the Greeks who had the midah necessary to acquire chachma, which is they had the azos, they had the boldness, the audacity of an amer, and that is why they challenged the Torah. Okay, pasuk zayin. Basar dina. After this, chazei haves, I saw, bechezvi lelia, I saw in the visions of night, va'aru, and behold, cheva riviyah, a fourth creature, dechila, frightful, v'yemasani, and scary, the sakifa, and powerful, yatira, excessively. So now Daniel is saying, after seeing the three animals, I saw in the vision of night a fourth animal, which was frightening and terrifying, excessively terrifying. The shinayin di parzel. It had iron teeth. La. Ravravan. Mighty. Achla. It was eating umadka and crushing. Ushara, and the rest, whatever it didn't eat and crush, biragla rafsa. It trampled with its feet. Now, what kind of animal was this? It wasn't a bear, it wasn't a leopard, it wasn't a lion. Vihi meshanya, it was different. Min kol chevasa di kadama, from all the preceding animals. The karnayin asarla, and it had 10 horns. So this animal was quite fearful and frightening. It had 10 horns. Now, what are exactly are these 10 horns? What are these 10 horns? Now, which empire is this referring to?
Both. The Roman Empire.
Julius Caesar, Augustus, Perek.
Which empire is this? So the Ibn Ezra says, the Ibn Ezra learns that included in the third empire of Greece is Rome. Because we know that Yavan had a son. Who is the son of the Kitim? Kitim are considered Rome. So the Ibn Ezra groups together Rome with Greece in the third empire, and the fourth empire, the Ibn Ezra learns, is Yishmael. But that is not the majority view. The majority view is the fourth empire is what?
Rome.
The fourth empire is Rome. Who are these 10 horns? Rashi says the following. Look at Rashi. Eser krona zu, these 10 horns, Perush, lo hamalach, the malach is yet to explain to him. Shehem asara malachim, these are the 10 kings. Sheyamdu l'Romi, that will stand up for Rome. Kaidim la'Aspasianos, before Vespasian, Shechara v'Sabayas, who destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. So the 10 horns are the 10 kings who would rule Rome before the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Now, who are these 10 kings? So the Abarbanel says, you know who these 10 kings are? Number 1, Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar is number 1. Number 2, Augustus. Number 3, Tiberius. Number 4, Caligula. Zelig, you know Caligula?
Havanagila.
He was never in Muncie, Caligula. Number 5 was Claudius. Number 6, Nero Caesar. Number 7, Galba. Number 8, Otho. Number 9, Vitellius, and number 10 Vespasian. What about before? Before that, Rome was ruled not by Caesars or kings, but rather by the Senate and the 2 elected consuls. Okay, so Julius Caesar may be considered the first one. Rav Sadi going to understand that it's referring to the 10 governments of the Roman Empire.
How come it doesn't mention Antoninus?
Antoninus?
Yeah,
Andreunus.
yeah, he was a friend to
Because this is talking about in the
Rabbi.
times of the second Beis Hamikdash.
Antoninus was right after the first one.
Caesar?
was
First was Caesar.
Caesar, yeah.
Anthony, you're talking about Anthony.
Antoninus, yeah.
Maybe it's one of them. The names was Antoninus.
No, he's not one of them.
He was the leader.
He and Cleopatra, they're giving a lot.
Okay, says Daniel, look in the next pasuk. Mistakal Habes. What does mistakal mean? I was contemplating. Bikarnaya, the horns. Va'alu. You know what va'alu means? Va'alu in Aramaic is the same as va'aru. You know what va'aru means? Va'aru means hine, behold. Behold. Karen achari. Another horn. Ze'era. A small one. Silkus beinehain. Began to arise among them. In other words, they had 10 horns, and then after a while, another horn began to arise among them. And this horn, like you have teeth, and then the big tooth comes in and pushes out the little teeth. Uslas min karnaya kadmayasa, and 3 of the earlier horns, isakara min kadama, were uprooted from it. Va'alu, and behold, ainin, eyes, ka'aine anosha, like the eyes of men. Bekarnada, were on this horn. That implies that while the other horns used only brute force, this horn had the eyes of man. What does that mean, it had the eyes of man? It had intelligence. Okay? Va'alu, and behold, ainin ka'aine anosha bekarnada, ufum mimalel ravravin, and a mouth speaking arrogance. Now, what is this referring to? Says Rashi, this last horn, this 11th horn, this little horn, that's speaking arrogance, says Rashi, Divrei Gava, who Titus was Titus. Who was Titus? He was the son of Aspasianus, Vespasian. Shamar Chazal, Shechireth, Begideth, he blasphemed, he cursed, V'nichnas laheichal ba'azos panim. Now, the question is, Rabbi Say, what are these 3 horns that this little horn is uprooting? So if you say that this horn is Vespasian, the Malbim says that these 3 horns are 3 kingdoms originally included in the Roman Empire that broke away from it. Okay? Now, it's very interesting. The Abarbanel, and the Malbim also learns this way, he learns that this little horn is different than Rashi. Rashi learns the little horn refers to who? Titus, the 11th horn, the son of Vespasian. But the Malbim says, and so does the Abarbanel, refers to the institution of the Pope, a little horn. In other words, this is a new type of power, a new type of dominion, that in the beginning, the Bishop of Rome was not necessarily the political leader of the Christian world. But as the church grew in power, so the popes of the Middle Ages were able to exercise more and more power. Look at the Malbim. The Malbim says, Perish Hari, Shekivan al Mamshalas ha-Apifier. What's the Apifier? What? Yeah. Asher Hischel Baromi Shoy Betchilase Ma'ata Uzeira. It was originally small. At first, who ruled Rome? The Caesars. Gavar Hakeren Hazeh. Afterwards, this horn grew. Bimei HaKezar Kustantin, in the times of, right? How do you? Constantine, right? Constantine, Shalakach es, right? Shalakach es Silvestro, right? Ha'apifir shayanechva mari. He took this pope who was hiding in a cave. V'hivi l'Romi v'nasan kesar kesas b'yadai. Shehu v'abam achar yimshul b'Romi v'Italia. V'hakezer halach leConstantinu bana oisai v'asa sham Moshe v'hakesaria. So originally, who ruled Rome? The Caesars. But then in the time of Constantine, he took the pope by the name of Silvestro.
Who took the Pope?
Constantine. This is what the Malbim writes.
Constantine was the emperor.
Yeah, Constantine took the pope who was hiding in a cave. He brought him to Rome. He gave him the crown of the Caesar, and the capital was moved to Rome and to Italy, and the Caesar who followed, right? V'hakezer holach leConstantine hu bano Isai. He built up Constantine. Okay, very interesting. This is what the Malbim says.
Constantine did it a favor to his mother.
Why?
The missionaries, the Christians,
Yeah.
they took him his mother and they made her a Christian. And she became so full, and she asked the son, he should become a Christian. He became a Christian, and that's why the whole Roman Empire.
And the official religion of
Yeah.
all the pagans.
His mother, credit to his mother.
Okay, very interesting. Chazei Havis, says Daniel, then I saw Ad di Charsavan Remiv, until the thrones were set up. Rashi says Kisais, the thrones Hutalu were placed, Beniskanu, and they were set Leishev b'mishpat echad ledin, to be able to be enacted for judgment. Why two thrones? One echad ledin. One throne was God's throne of judgment. The Yechad Litztakal Yisrael. One throne is God's throne of Rachamim toward Klal Yisrael. So Daniel says, I was watching until the thrones were set up. The Atik Yoinin Yisiv, and the Ancient of Days sat. Rabbi said, who's the Ancient of Days?
The Eibishter.
The Eibishter. God Himself is the Ancient of Days. Levushe, His cloak, Kislug Chivar, white like snow. Why white like snow? To purify the sins of His people. Usa'areshe, and the hair on His head, Ka'amar Nekeh, was like cleaned wool. That means God cleansed Himself from any merit the guy may have, and He paid them all the reward in Olam Hazeh. That's what the Medrash says. Rabbi say, you ever hear the Sefer? Who wrote the Sefer Amar Nekeh? That's the commentary of the Bar Tanura on Chumash. It's called Amar Nekeh, clean wool. Karsiye, His throne, Shavivin Dinor, were torches of fire. God's throne, torches of fire. Sparks of fire. Galgilohi, the wheels of His throne, Nor Delik, fiery fire. So you can imagine the throne of the Rebbeinu Shalom. It's sparks of fire. The wheels of His throne are fiery fire. Pasuk Yud. What emanated from God's throne? Nahar di Dinor, a river of fire. Right? I believe the Gemara tells us that there is a river of fire that the Malachim are purged in. Nahar di Dinor, a river of fire, Naged, emanated, V'nafek, and went out min kadamai, from before God. Elef Alfin Yeshamishune, 1,000 thousands served before Him. Rabbi say, what's 1,000 thousands?
1,000,000.
What's 1,000 times 1,000?
1,000,000.
1,000 times 1,000 is what?
1,000,000.
1,000,000. 1,000,000. Rabbi say, what's 10,000 times 10,000?
A billion.
So, 10,000 times 10,000?
I got a problem with 25.
Billion.
A billion?
10,000 is 1,000.
It's 100,000 times 100,000.
100,000. It's 100 million.
100 million.
Yeah? So Rabbi said that's how many malachim serve before God. Dina Yesiv, the judgment is true. V'sifrin Pasichu, and the books are open. What judgment is this talking about? We know that there's a concept that every year on Rosh Hashanah God judges a person. Fine. We also know that la'achar mea v'esim shana, a person has to undergo judgment. Fine. That we understand. But what's the purpose of the din of la'asad lavai? Why is Hashem going to judge everyone la'asad lavai? Everyone already went through judgment. Everybody already went through judgment. La'achar mea v'esim shana. What good? What is accomplished? Why is it necessary for the Rebbe Shalom to judge la'asad lavai? What is that going to accomplish? We already judged. Hashem already has it on record.
For the ones who didn't die.
And the ones who already died, they're finished?
They're finished.
So Aaron Color says a beautiful pshat. Aaron Color used to say that a person is judged la'achar mea v'esim shana, but not all the information has been entered into the record books yet. For example, someone did an avera that other people learned from. So now, for all of time, people are continuing to learn from that avera that continues to be reckoned to the cheshbon. That was a cheshbon that the Rebbe Shalom didn't deal with la'achar mea v'esim shana. Or vice versa, if someone influenced someone for the good, someone has children, and so forth, people who are doing mitzvahs because of them, that's also information that has not been rechendoist yet. So therefore, it's necessary that at the end of time for the Rebbe Shalom to make the final judgment. Okay. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Chazei Haves. I saw. Beidayin. Beidayin. Then. Min kol milaya rav revasa. From that arrogant speech. Di karna memalala. That horn was speaking. Remember, we learned that the 11th horn, which represented Titus, or according to the Barbanel, represented the papacy, that 11th horn was speaking arrogance. I saw the arrogant talk that emanated from that horn. Chazei Haves. I saw Adi Ketilas Chevasa, until the beast was murdered. Meaning this animal that represents the Roman Empire. I saw it was murdered.
By who? It doesn't say by who.
It doesn't say by who. Presumably by God Himself. V'huvad gishmei, its body was decimated. V'hivas, and it was given li kedas esha, into the burning fire. So if you want to know what is the ultimate outcome of the Roman Empire, it will be utterly destroyed. Pasuk Yud Beis. Usha'ar chevasa. What about the other umais? What about them? Hediv Shaltanai. Their dominion was removed. The implication is that they had a degree of dominion even during the time of the Fourth Empire.
There were a little bit.
In fact, right?
A little bit.
We learned once that the Persian Empire, which is the second one, the Maharal learns part of the Persian Empire is the Arabs. And the Arab and the Roman Empire will be struggling until the end of time. In fact, the Gemara has a debate. Who will outlast who? It's actually a machlekes amarim. Will the Romans defeat the Arabs, or will the Arabs defeat the Romans? But in any event, their dominion will be removed. The archa v'chayin yehivas lahain, and long life will be given to them. Ad zaman, until a season, v'idan, and a time. In other words, they will be given long years until a time. What's the time? Says Rashi, the Melchemes Gog u'Magog. So until Melchemes Gog u'Magog, these other umais will be given a degree of dominion. Pasuk Yud Gimel. Chazei Haves. I saw the Chezvi Lelia in my vision of night. Va'aru, and behold, Imanone Shemaya, in the clouds of heavens, Kivar Enosh, like a man, Osei Hava was coming. V'yadatik yoimaya mitah. And until the Ancient of Days it reached, ukedamahi hakrivuhi. And he was brought before him. So now all of a sudden the vision changes. While until now Daniel saw a bunch of behemoths, chayas, animals, for the first time Daniel sees kevar enosh, like a man. And this mensch wasn't ba'aret. He was...
People, that's why I saw animals.
What?
There were no people, so I saw animals.
But now he sees for the first time a person, yeah?
Yeah.
And this person, for the first time, he's not ba'aretz, he's in Manone Shemaya. He's on the clouds of heaven. Says Rashi, who is this mensch? Melech HaMashiach. He's Mashiach. And what does it mean he's brought to the Ancient One of Days? God, who is judging the nations. Interesting. He himself reaches God, but he can't get to God. Once he's done his part, he's brought before God. Says the Malbim that we learn from here an important lesson. That after a person raises himself up through his maisim and his preparation to come close to God, only then God helps a person. Only then, as tavei alav, the siyua milmala. So a person has to do his part to raise himself up before God, and when we've raised ourselves up before God, God will give us the assistance to bring us before Him. Okay. Now, also a very interesting thing. What is exactly this cloud that brings up this person? What are clouds? Clouds are the mist, full of ruach, that is even lighter than water. What does this have to do with Mashiach? We know that learning Torah creates a certain dew, a certain tal, which means like this. While the other Malchios are very physical, they are grounded here in this world. The Melech HaMashiach has certain merits that allow him to rise up to the heavens. And that's his Torah mitzvahs that allow him to rise above this physical world. Like the pasuk says, Ki taloiros talecha. Now, very interesting. Who exactly brings Mashiach before God? Who's bringing him? So the Mefarshim say Eliyahu. Eliyahu is the Malach HaMamuna over Mashiach. He brings him to God. Velei, and to him Yehev Shaltin, is given dominion, vikar, and honor, umalchu, and royalty, v'chal amamaya, and all the peoples, umaya, the nations, v'lishanaya, and the languages, la'yiflachan, they will serve him. Shaltane, shaltan olam, his dominion is an everlasting dominion. Dila yadeh, that will never be removed. Umalchusei, and his royalty, dila sischabal, will never be destroyed. So this was Daniel's vision. Not only does Daniel see the four animals, who were the lion, Bavel, the leopard,
the bear,
Persia, the leopard, thank you, Greece, and the monster, which is Rome. He also sees the mensch, which is the Melech HaMashiach. Now the Gemara in Sanhedrin on Daf Tzadik Ches asks the stira, because in this pasuk it says Mashiach will come Imanone Shemaya, through the clouds of the heavens, which implies it will happen swiftly, quickly. And the pasuk says in Zechariah what? Ani v'roichiv al chamor. Reb Zelek, did you ever ride a chamor? No?
I rode a camel when I was a child.
But
in the Middle East.
But not a chamor.
Not a camel.
Okay. The chamor is not very fast. So does Mashiach happen quickly, or is it a slow process? Says the Gemara, right? The Gemara has another stira. It says Be'itai, and it says Achishana. It says it will come at the right time, and it says I will hasten it.
Zacha
Achishana. Loi Zachu Be'itai. So too. Zacha Iman Ba'aro Imanone Shemaya. If we're Zacha, we'll come with the clouds. If we're not Zacha, Ani V'Reichav Al Chama. Okay. Pasuk Tesvav is Kirias Ruchi. My spirit was stirred. Ano Daniel, I Daniel, Begoy Nidna. In its Nidna. What's a Nidna? A Nadan. Not a dowry. In its sheath. What does that? What does Daniel mean? My soul was stirred in its sheath. What does that mean? My soul stirred in its sheath.
In his insides.
What is the sheath? What's a sheath? A sheath is the cover of something. What's the sheath of a soul? The body. So Daniel says, my soul stirred in its sheath. V'chezvei reishi yivahalunani. And the visions of my head confounded me. In other words, this was a very confusing nevuah. Now the word eskarias is a lashon, Rashi says, of ki yichra ishbar, a lashon of digging. In other words, it dug me, it disturbed me. Kirves, I then approached al chad min ka'amaya, one of the standing ones. What does that mean? He approached one of the standing ones. What kind of creatures are considered always to be standing?
Malachim.
Malachim, right? V'nasati lecha malachim bein ha'imdim ha'im. Right? The Navi Zechariah says, malachim are called oimdim. You know why malachim are called oimdim?
They don't sit down.
Because they can't sit in a chair. You know why? They don't have knees. They don't have knees. You can't sit if you don't have a knee. They have no joints. So they stand.
But they have chairs, they would sit down.
Maybe they lie down, but they can't sit in a chair.
Weißt doch, was Jigan so? Ach, stei, sitzt er denn nicht?
That's right.
They can't sit. That's why, right? We read in the Haftarah, Raglehem Regel Yeshara. Their foot is a straight foot. But Al Pi Hashkafa, there's a concept that also the Malachim are oimdim. They can't change. They can't progress. They can't go higher. They can't go lower. Okay. So Daniel says, I approached one of the standing guys, the Malachim. V'yatziva eve. I requested from him the yatziva. What does yatziva mean? Like v'yatziv v'nachem, the truth. I asked him the truth. V'yatziva eve mine. I requested the truth from him. I'll call to know. What's this all about? V'amar li, and he told me, Ufeshar milaya yehoide inani, and the interpretation of the matter, he notified me. Elaine chevasa rav revasa. These great beasts, Ti'inin, Arba, that were four, Arba Malchim, 4 kingdoms, Yikuman Manara, will emerge from the ground. 4 kingdoms will emerge. V'kablon Malchusa Kadishe El Yoinim, but eventually, who will accept their dominion from them? The supreme high ones. Who are the supreme high ones? Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael will accept the Malchus from them. In other words, eventually we will take their Malchus from them. The Yachsanun Malchusa, and we will inherit their Malchus ad Oma, forever. V'ad Olam Amaya, and forever and ever. So the shaila is, once it says forever, why does it have to say and forever and ever? Because sometimes forever is not so long. For example, Yovel is also forever, but it's only 50 years, so it has to stress. Ad Oma, V'ad Olam Amaya. Adayin, what does Adayin mean? Then Tzivis. I wanted, like Tzivi, I wanted Liat Sava. I wanted the truth. Al Chevisa Reviasa, about that 4th beast. I wanted to know the truth about that 4th beast. Dihavas Shanya Min Kalhain. That was different from all of them. Dechila Yatira, it was excessively frightening. Shina Di Farzel, it had iron teeth. V'tifra Di Nechash, it had claws of copper. This is a new thing. We never heard this before. That Daniel is adding that it had claws of copper. This is not something Daniel mentioned in the original vision. Apparently the vision was progressing, was changing as we speak. Achlad, it was eating madka and crushing, ushara, and whatever it didn't crush, by eating baragla rafsa, trampled with its feet. Pasuk Chaf, Yal Karnaya Asar Divaresha, regarding the 10 horns on its head. The Achari Di Silkas, and the other one that emerged. Unefela Min Kada Mai Tlas.
And it made 4.
And the other one that emerged and caused 3 to fall away. V'karna di kain, and this new horn, v'aynin la, it had eyes. Ufum emalo ravravan, with the mouth that was speaking arrogance. V'chezva and its appearance, Rav min Chavrasa, was greater than its friends. What does that mean? It had a different appearance than the other ones.
Okay, it's
And in history,
10:30.
the Romans discovered the iron. Their weapons were from iron. The other ones, the Egyptians, the others were from copper. So they were soft and they were stronger. So that's why they conquered them.
It's 10:30.
We go till 10:32 and a half. Is that Taiv? Chazei Havis, I saw the Karna the Dikain and this horn of the Kirav made a war in Kadishin with the holy ones. Who are the holy ones?
The Jews.
The Klal Yisrael, v'yachlalahin, and they prevailed against Klal Yisrael until when? Adi asa atik yaimaya, until the Ancient of Days, until God Himself came. V'dina yehiv, and He gave judgment, He gave punishment. V'dina yehiv, He gave revenge, nekama. He gave nekama l'kadishei al yainim to the supreme ones, the Klal Yisrael. V'zimna mata, and the time came. Umachusa hachasinu kadishin, and the holy ones inherited the malchus. Says the Malbim, an amazing thing. We learned that there are two types of geula. We could be zaycha, and then the geula will come quickly, or if we're not zaycha, the geula will come at its time. So in the beginning of this pasuk, we're called kadishei el yoinim. The end of the pasuk, we're called kadishin. Says the Malbim. If we're called Kadishei El Yoinim and we're Zoicha, then God will come and give us vengeance. But if we're only Kadishin, we're not Kadishei El Yoinim, then we have to wait till Vizimna Mata, until the set time comes. Aboisai, have a wonderful day.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.